their media apparatus is constantly feeding into their neuroses and their actual phobias. My book, which is coming out in February, which is called Manufacturing Delusion and available for pre-order right now on Amazon, Clay, goes into exactly that. How do you make people politically crazy, as in delusional and not able to see reality? And clearly Trump derangement syndrome is the most apparent manifestation of that we see right now. There was the COVID madness, there's the trans stuff, there's a whole bunch of things, but there is a clear ability, and it unfortunately is very prominent in America these days, to make a lot of people really nuts in the service of a political agenda, to believe crazy things. And that is very scary, because it is when people believe untrue and crazy things that terrible things happen to societies. Go get the pre-order now, Manufacturing Delusion. That's what we call it. That's what we
I
call
just
a pitch
did
to
right before this show. I did a fun Zoom podcast show with Will Cain, who obviously has a show on Fox News now. You're a longtime friend, but we talked a lot about the delusion. If you had been a diehard sports fan, Buck, I think you would have seen so much of the delusion going on in the world of sports, and certainly saying men can be women is part of it. But even just going through, it was fun to kind of go through some of these crazy stories over the last week. There have been a lot of just Jussie Smollett style stories made up in sports. LeBron, for instance, for those of you out in LA, you'll remember this. It almost gets no attention. He, I think, falsely claimed that somebody scrolled a racial slur on his $20 million mansion in L.A., the Brentwood area of L.A. And I went through and did an investigation, called the police, asked for police reports, the kind of things that someone who is in media should do. And the L.A. police just dropped that case and said we'd have found no evidence that there was ever a crime committed. Most people have no idea that happened because at least Fox News exists in the world of politics. The New York Post exists. There are entities that will kind of go and shepherd and look into stories like these. Now Outkick does, certainly. There's hardly anything in sports where people will actually ask these questions and say, wait a minute, LeBron Jussie Smolletted that entire racial slur on the Gates story? Yes, I think the evidence is that he did, but because nobody covered it, it is kind of just a vanishing story. Remember the Bubba Wallace noose story that everybody
that was
convinced?
a mass hysteria for sure.
Correct.
Absurd.
That NASCAR was super racist and that some guy decided, hey, I'm going to send a message. We're going to have a noose in Bubba Wallace. And then the FBI got called in. The FBI. And they did a big investigation, and they were like, this has been here for years, and it's actually a common way to tie a knot. That was the conclusion. It's just, I think these things would tie in well with your book. But yeah, I hope we're coming out of them. But I'm a little bit afraid that we might not.
Well, there's even a whole trans chapter, and of course deal with the Riley Gaines situation and that guy who was a girl or pretended to be a girl to swim.
Yep.
And the fact that people go along with this stuff. And I'll say this, the fact that people sit around and pretend like Donald Trump is Hitler is crazy. And that there are news shows where they still talk about the rise of fascism, and they speak about Trump in a way that is meant to terrify emotionally and psychologically weak people. Now, I mean that. It is not meant to amuse them. It is meant to terrify the psychologically weak in the audience of the New York Times. And there's a lot of neurotic people often confuse IQ with psychological strength. Not true at all. A lot of very high IQ people actually have tremendous difficulties dealing with the world around them.
Yes.
Famously, you could see like that guy Nash from A Beautiful Mind, and we've seen movies about this. Others, the correlation between even genius and delusion and psychological issues. Howard Hughes. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, right, where you can point to this and see. My point here is that there are a lot of very psychologically fragile people who have coalesced, and this is true if you look at things like heavy SSRI usage, you look at rates of self-described depression, anxiety, all this. Clay, it clusters on the left side of the political aisle.
Yes.
And so their media apparatus is constantly feeding into their neuroses and their actual phobias. There are Trump phobic people out there. I had a friend in college A good friend of mine who was always a lib, he texted me. He's like, "What are you going to do when the stormtroopers are pulling you and like your friends off the street?" And I felt bad for him because I'm like, "You really think that that's going to happen? You live in an alternate universe."
They really do. And the delusional nature of this, I think many of you, here's the positive. I think there are tons of you out there listening right now that have come to see the truth. And I think every day and every week and every month, we add a few more people out there in Sanity World. And the reason that I would be optimistic about this, some of you would say, okay, Clay, what are you basing that optimism in? The number of people who didn't vote Trump in 2016 that by 2024 did vote Trump. It is an extraordinary increase in Trump support. And, you go back to 2016, I think it was 64 million-ish people voted for Donald Trump. A lot of those people over the years ahead have passed away. So we probably have added 20 million Trump voters between 2016 and 2024. That's a sign that sanity will win. But boy, it's been a battle, Buck. And that's what I come back to and just look at optimistically is we probably have seen between 2016 and 2024 around 20 million of you, many of whom are listening to us right now, were not Trump voters in 16. And by 24, they said, I can't continue in the trajectory that the nation has been going on. This is an optimistic thought for you, and I hope those same people show up in 26 and certainly in 28 too. You could live in a country, a very busy city. You could live all over the country. It doesn't even matter where you are, but you could find yourself in danger in a relatively short period of time. And Sabre can help provide non-lethal opportunities to protect yourself out there with their pepper gel projectile launcher. Shaped like a pistol or a rifle, depending on the model, fires off pepper gel projectiles targeted, go a longer distance than you might think, making it effective against an intruder. Sabre is spelled S-A-B-R-E. The website is sabreradio.com. All their products are right here. #1 pepper spray brand trusted by law enforcement. You want the right devices available in your home, and you want to get hooked up. We have every single one of these devices in our home. I love this company. Family-owned. Go check them out yourself. Non-lethal options. sabreradio.com. That's S-A-B-R-E radio.com. 844-824-SAFE. 844-824-SAFE.